then I'm sure you're aware the crescendo to the GAA club season is upon us. All-Ireland football semi-finals on this weekend. We have the All-Ireland final doubleheader at Croke Park next weekend. So the football this weekend, Coola of Dublin against Coolera Strandhill of Sligo. And then we've Tyrone Kerry in the other semi-final, Erigol Ciarán against Crokes. And the hurling final is a Cork-Dublin affair. That'll be a doubleheader, obviously. Sarsfield's Cork against Nafina Dublin. These are kind of seismic, magical days for the teams involved. To underline the point, we are 20 years on from Ballina Stephenites beating Portlaoise. Midfielder par excellence that day. David Brady is in studio. David, hello.
How's it going, Joseph?
It's good to have you on. Good to talk to you again.
Good to see you. You're getting younger by the day, buddy.
And Michael Verney is of the Irish Independent, of course. But for the purposes of this conversation, played for Birr and Offaly. Played for Birr in a club final back in 09.
08.
08. Well, you must have been 12 at the time, were you?
I was 21, I think, yeah. Oof. Not thinking about things over.
You're aging well, unlike myself and Joe.
I wish I was. The hair makes it look like I am, but the rest of me doesn't.
You need to get that place in Turkey you went to.
You're probably stronger looking now than you were as a player.
I feel fresh. Oof. I feel fresh in all fairness.
That body fat percentage now is in good nick.
Oh, you want to see some of the players now? It's just body fat it's phenomenal, yeah. But
Dave, isn't it easier to train now by yourself and keep yourself looking in good nick as opposed to when you actually have to go training 3 times a week? You can't do what you're doing now along with it, if you get me, and you look different.
It's just, you know what, and I'll be 100% honest, if I blew up tomorrow morning, I don't care, as long as from my chin to my head is fresh, and that is awful important. And if I love just doing it. I love being on my own there. Not on my own, there's a community in a gym nearly. I need to do something. And it was a habit. We're talking about 20 years. When you're in sport, I've trained 3, 4, 5 times a week for the last 33 years, 34 years. Jesus, it sounds a lot now. And you're going, what do you, I just maybe you might do yoga, Pilates, swimming, sauna, cold plunge. It's just, it's a habit. I'd always say, thanks be to God, I'm not in the habit of having 7 to 10 pints a day. Yeah. Some people can get into the I've never come out the door of an exercise area or off a pitch or off a run or off a walk, not feeling better.
You have to do it for your back as well, don't you?
I do. I'd be crippled if I don't do. Going back over the years, the amount of injuries that you accumulate over 10, 15, 20, 30 years of sport, it takes a massive effect. The winter now is hard for me because bones I've broke and plates in my couple of places around the body. It just kind of, you feel it. You feel that kind of, not arthritis, but it's just, they come back to you.
Well, you're looking good. Well, those biceps don't take care of themselves. You know what I mean?
As the man says. They used to say the body of Ferrari and the engine of a Morris Minor.
So I guess the point of this, well, twofold. Will Outside said, I have an idea for Friday. It involves David Brady and Michael Verney. I said, sold. He said, you don't know what the idea is yet. I said, I'm sold on a Friday. I don't care if we're talking about sports washing. They're in.
I was told once. I was told it was you and Mike. And look, I love it, and fair play.
Club Championship, you've both been there, you've both done it. You can give us a sense of why it's so special, because I think there's a thing, Michael. You now cover it, and it's hard to get the nation as a whole excited about a club match. And there's that kind of, it's a derisory enough line. Who cares about a club match 2/10s? So there is that aspect of club. Like, I don't think the whole country is tuning in over the next 2 weeks. They would, the way they will, of course, for the inter-county. But that's not to underestimate what it means to Birr, what it means to Ballina, what it means to these sides. And you guys are a good vehicle for us maybe to appreciate that.
Yeah, Asher, listen, Joe, it means everything. And you, like David will tell you, he's played on the biggest occasion of them all Ireland final day. And you're carrying the hopes of a county and God only knows who else around the country. But when it's club and it's the person you meet outside Mass collecting, or the person you meet inside Mass, or the person you meet down the main street going between shops or something like that. That's all that's spoken about, really, in my local area. And that's the same in every area around the country. And it's funny you say, like, it might only be 2 clubs. How can we all relate to that? But like, I was chatting to Matty Kenny on Monday. He's over Teen Abbey and Irie. They're playing the All-Ireland Intermediate final on Sunday. He's going to try and win an intermediate with his own club, having won 2 seniors with Coola already. And I could just feel it off him, what it means for him to be leading his club, his people up to Croke Park. And he talks about a small rural club that's kind of suffered depopulation. I'm kind of thinking, this is so relatable. You know, this is relatable to nearly every rural club in the country, and they're not this big super club, but they have nearly 100% retention rate, be it coaches or players, because he was able to say, you know, they're able to give the player more time, they're able to give him more attention, and make sure that the guy that's average at under 12, he's going to get maybe a lot more attention than, you know, the 60 guys at under 12 in a super club. And yeah, they'll coax him along. And when it comes to senior, and I've seen it in my own county in places like Coolderry, Lusma, etc., lads that were not next to near school teams passing out lads from town clubs, and it often happens. But you might say it's only the 2 clubs involved that it really means a lot to. But if you think about it on a deeper level, like, the urban club is relatable to every urban club in the country, and they have problems. They have number advantages, but they have problems as well. Numbers can be a problem from that respect. And then you have the rural clubs that every rural club in the country can relate to. We'll say Teen Abbey Denairy at the weekend, and then, you know, we're looking at the hurling final, the senior final next weekend. Loads of clubs can relate to Sarsfields. Loads of clubs can relate to Nafina as well. But it's just the local element to it. And it is, and David will tell you, it's meeting a lad putting an arm around you in a pub after, and I don't drink, so I can remember all the shite that's been said to me over the years, good and bad. You get abuse obviously as well, and you remember that too. But you could just see what it means to people. And even over the Christmas time, like Christmas after winning a provincial title for your club is like nothing you will experience. It's just, you can see a glow. Have you seen that, David? You see a glow on people. There's just a glow on their face. You don't even, it might be a wink to a fella, and you're like, you know what it means to him. You know what the small part that you've played on the field means to him, and he could be lining the field every Tuesday, Friday or Sunday or whatever, or he could be selling lotto tickets on a Saturday night or whatever, or it could be a parent, or it could be a relative, and you know what it means to them. That always hits me hard anyway, because they're the people that you respect most, because they're the people that are closest to you and will always be close to you. They don't live at home at the minute, but like, I know if I pick up the phone 5 seconds, you fall back in with someone you haven't been talking to in 5 years.
Yeah, and it is, and it's no matter what, it's awful important to know where you came from. And you have the Crossmaglen's, you have the Crossballinas, you have the Coolas, you have the Castleknock's. I don't see a difference in any of them. Geographically, yes, but it's club, and you are 99.9% born into a club. 100% you're born into a family, but 99.9% you're born into a club, and life circumstances sometimes you change. I'm a Castleknock man, kind of.
Via Ratot.
Oh, Ballina always, and I remember I went to the county final the year we were fortunate enough to win it in Rathot, and I was out. Ballina lost it, and I was out, and I says, you know, young fellas I wouldn't really know, and one of the young fellas that was on the team the last says, well done on your club winning. I says, let me tell you, this is my club, not anywhere else, because you always go back and you always have that connection, and it's something special, and I hope we'll never lose it, because I even see, you know, you talk about them men and women in the club, and they've done and sacrificed and volunteering. I think we'll always have that, because that's the one thing that's handed down. You know, there is a certain element in club now, but 90% of it is the local people, the volunteers. I see it in, like, I think my club was in 1884. James Wallace Melvin was the founder of it. Ballina Stephenites. I see it in Castleknock. 1998 founded. You go down there on a Saturday morning, the men that founded the club in Castleknock and started it off and put the bomb under, kind of, say, Bridget's Castleknock area, they're marking out the pitches for the under 6s and under 7s. You know, and I'm going, it's absolutely phenomenal. There's a lady called Barbara, no, but she is at everything. She is there, and I'm going, that's what GA, that's what clubs mean. And you can name these people in every club, rural, urban, across the country, and that's what makes it special. And no matter who's in the final, the club finals, hurling, football, there's some club in that county saying we could have bet them. So that could be us. So we could beat them. And there's no one in any, if you're in a senior, intermediate or junior, you can always say, we could beat them. We did beat them, or we should have bet them. And now they're on the biggest stage of all Ireland Club Final Day, Crow Park, and that's what brings you, that's, your Northern Star then maybe is your county team, but your club is, for me, and I'd be very straight and honest, it was an integral part of my life, where I am now, and where I'd like to be because of the people that influenced me and the fun and the crack and that kind of connection. It'll never, ever, ever lose it. And you don't have to be the best player. You don't have to be a county star. You'll always can be a club player.
Just on two things you said there, Dave. I think the real heroes in clubs will never actually want any limelight. It'll be the arm around you, or the handshake, or the wink, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's their thanks for everything that they've done. They don't really want anything else. The other thing you said there, people would often say, with the finals being so close to Christmas now, oh, it's not terrible, the players are missing out on Christmas. I can tell you that the players that have to, in inverted commas, sacrifice Christmas, they are the envy of every other club in the country, and that is a fact.
Yeah.
Everyone wants what you're saying there about, we could have beaten them or whatever. They would give their right arm to be in that position. So it is not a sacrifice, and it's a funny one because it's changed since we played. It was Patrick's Day, so you nearly had to stop and do a pre-season and start again. It's different now, you can kind of continue on, but there's none of those guys missing Christmas, I can tell you that, because they're seeing people around the locality in coffee shops or wherever it is, and there's just a hum around the place, and there's colour, and everything is building up to the excitement of this weekend and the weekend after as well.
Well, I guess colour and hum and a buzz about the place, like that is why it's so lovely, in that, like, life generally, day-to-day life is a little bit humdrum. You go to the shop and you come home and you cook dinner and you're on the treadmill, and so for a town, this focus of colour and buzz, like emotion,
it brings you through,
brings something to life about a whole town,
and brings you through winter. And no matter, winter is hard, like we know the last few days, but it's hard, but it gives you that, and people will rarely say, I have no interest at all in football, because the interest will come to them at some stage, whether it's, in the local club or the town or the village has the flags out, and you actually become part of that then.
Yes.
No matter if you're, heavily involved or just on the periphery. But it brings you through that kind of long, hard 4-6 months.
I do think, as we're all, screens and technology and just society generally a little bit more atomised, there are fewer and fewer reasons to leave your house.
Oh, but there is. I'm and again, not loneliness and rural isolation and everything else. It's you're leaving your house, it's dark. You're coming home, it's dark.
Yeah.
You don't see anyone over the garden fence because you can't put your nose outside the door, and it's just dreary. And it's I can't wait for the kids now to go back playing GA again, just to get them out and burn some of that energy off them.
It can be a little bit lonely and a little bit monotonous, and a Tuesday can feel the same as a Thursday, and then whoom.
Yeah,
there's a throw in at 3:30 in the town. Yeah,
and it's really, and you need momentum, and the first league games across the country in February now, there won't be crowds at them as such, but it just gives a sense of purpose, and many people I meet will say, oh, you're from, they go Ballina Stephenites, because it's Ballina, but we always say Ballina Stephenites.
Yeah.
Because James Stephen has called it, you're a Stephenite. But yeah, it gives a place. It kind of puts it on the map as well in people's minds. Not that some of them mightn't even know you played, but they go, oh yeah, Ballina Stephenites.
Indulge me for a second then with Memory Road. So these are the moments after Ballina have beaten Portlaoise by a point 20 years ago now. We're at the 20-year anniversary. Liam Brady, brother of David, has kicked the winning score. Aidan Tighe has saved a shot in the line in the final few minutes for Ballina. and David Brady, who I read either 7, 8 or 9. There are different accounts, but David Brady has lost at this stage 7, 8 or 9 All-Ireland finals. You probably know how many.
Yeah.
7? Had you lost 7 or 8?
I think it was, if you count the All-Ireland final replay in 96,
Let's count it.
I think it was 8, and that was my 9th.
Okay, so you played in 8 All-Ireland finals and there was no All-Ireland medal yet. And so 9th time lucky, you speak to TG Carr.
David, Cohordas, what does it feel like?
It's better than I ever expected. We went down a goal and I went, no. I just went, this can't happen again. They're a different bunch of players than I ever played with in my life. They're 20, 21 years of age. They've never lost really. They don't know what it's like to lose. I've been a loser all my life. But today, Hogan stand by. Pick up the cup.
Hogan stand. I watched a little bit back this morning. At full time, you don't go running here, there and everywhere in 50 directions, euphoric. Maybe the camera missed you doing that, but actually you're almost out of breath, like taking it a little bit overwhelmed almost at full time. I didn't see like elation, like I said, running, jumping. I just saw someone who's like, who's been through 9 of these things.
And I don't know, was I 30 odd? It just, you don't know how you're going to feel. And I've always dreamt of, and we all do as young fellas or players, and what it's like, what that feeling is like to win All Ireland. And I've dreamt it, I still dream it, to be honest with you, about a senior inter-county All Ireland. And then when it came, and I was fortunate enough to be in the position of an All Ireland club final, it was just, it's you kind of go to a different place and you're just, you know, I wouldn't be thumping and running, and that was my ambition and journey in life, part completed.
You looked almost tired, I would have said.
Oh, Jesus, hey.
Emotionally as well, you just look, it was like relief as much as elation.
Yeah, and I never let it get to me. I know I came out.
The not winning.
Yeah. I could say it then because I knew I had won. But I never let it define me. And I know I was very open there and saying I was a loser all my life. I didn't see myself as that until that moment came when I could say I wasn't.
Yeah, okay.
You know, because if I'd never won on All Ireland, whatever I'd be sitting in front of you today, you'd see the same man in the same place, and I sleep easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't sleep, but I would have slept easy.
If I hadn't happened, you couldn't be walking around thinking of yourself as a loser.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I would never ask anyone, you know, to see themselves as a loser. If I didn't have that medal, I have won so much outside of, you know, trophies and medals from GA, from club football, from sport, that you could never repay the people, the players, the faces, the places, and the fun that you get out of it.
But having won, it felt okay.
I did know, yeah. And I don't like I met one of my one of the teammates, and I don't get home to Ballina often enough now that I'm in Dublin and the young kids and whatnot. But it was like love at first sight. I was at a petrol station in Ballina, and he didn't see me, I didn't see him, and I was filling up my car, and next thing we looked at each other, and there was that kind of glow. I'm going, Jesus, how are you? You know,
all I can picture is it
was like,
did you start the green and red of Mayo, or did he?
Oh, I was just going, oh yeah, there is that special bond.
There's a great intimacy with people who've played together,
and
non-verbal,
and went through. And you know what? And honesty is an awful part of any team, whether it's in work or sport. We were so honest with each other back then, and it is something we opened our souls to each other, and we knew it was a safe place to do it. I went, yeah.
And then a hug, I hope.
As man says, we had to fill up first. We had to fill up, but there is that connection, and I felt good
I'd say so.
about seeing him,
I'd say so.
and he felt good about seeing me.
And a lot of the lads still around 20 years later?
Yeah, thanks be to God. Everyone is healthy. We've lost two kind of broader members of the team that have passed away, and we cherish that we're still here, and it's nice, and we're going to have a 20-year reunion. Because it's nice to meet up, because we're all in four corners of the country. I think everyone is in Ireland as such still. But yeah, it's come March, April, we're going to meet up. And
that was a fairly stacked Portlaoise side in that they had quite a few county players at the time. Leishan, a great place, maybe 6 or 7 county players. Ballina had yourself and Ronan McGarrity in midfield, and that was kind of it from a county perspective. Who went in as favourites for that game?
Portlaoise. Yeah,
right.
yeah. We had a kind of we had a good run in Connacht, and you're beating. You have the Carafins, that team, Killarea and Porrick Joyce's team. You had Bridget's. So but then our semi-final was not the most spectacular. There was a team from Clare, Kilmurray, Bricken.
Oh yeah.
That Nancy's was a good fight fest, and we kind of went in under the radar. But I've never thought about this before. But just when you played the clip, and I'm kind of going, it shows you the difference maybe in my mindset and the younger mindset of the younger players. And but when I said there, and I've never thought about this before. Maybe it was just ingrained in me, and maybe that's probably downfall of the part I played in Mayo football. I said there when the goal went, and I went, oh no. And maybe that was me carrying the baggage, because, I played very well that day. I wasn't man of the match. Liam, my brother, was, but there was men that stood up, and there were young fellas that didn't have probably that baggage. And I'm going, oh no.
I think after 8 finals, you're allowed to think that.
But you're allowed to think it, but you shouldn't think it, because you're going back, reset. Now you go, but I did go, oh no, not, and it was like,
I'm cursed.
Oh, it was just, and it was emotionally for me. Oh Jesus, I went every single year. I think from 95, under 21, 96, 97, 98. I lose a final in 99.
You did to Cross McGlen for Ballina.
Yeah, and then it was just like, it was just every year I was losing All Ireland finals nearly. And then 2004, we lost.
Well, this is the famous Mahon feud as well, because you were dropped to the bench for the Kerry All Ireland final.
Yeah.
And you were going to head to Australia, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And I go back to what I said, that only for my club, I can nearly guarantee you I wouldn't be here today. You don't know where life is going to take you. But I had said, I'm gone. And my club manager at the time, and my mentor, and he's one of, outside, in life, you have your father, and from me then you have, say, Tommy Lyons, who was the manager of that team. But he I remember it was 2004 All Ireland final. Myself and Kieran Mack were drinking brandy and port on day 5, I think it was.
Why didn't we start with that?
Yeah. And I got the phone call from my club manager. Yeah. And it was like, that was 2004. We got whacked.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he says, are you, he asked about me first. And he says, we'll have a cup of coffee during the week. He didn't ask me, where are you? He knew me, so he probably knew well where I was. But he kind of just said, and then when we had the chat 1-to-1, he says, and the club were very good to me when I came back. I was coaching in schools and coaching in, every local teacher in national school. I was working in the convent, doing PE, and it was they looked after me, and I owed them something as well. But as I said, you can't repay what a club gives you, and it's not about It's more morals for me than medals, and that's why it's so important.
There's an amazing kind of even if you weren't there, I feel like I was, that the homecoming and the bonfire, and there's Jack Charlton waving a flag.
Yeah, Jesus, and it's the one regret. And Tommy Lyons has always said it. And Tommy's a great man for pictures, and bloody hell, Jack Charlton outside the driveway from his house was 100 or different, and Big Jack was 6'6" or 7, and he stood up and like he was head tall, and he had the Mayo flag. We're the same colours as Mayo, and nobody got a picture of it. But you know what? I always sometimes, and this is the world we live in, I'm nearly glad that we're the only ones that has that picture in our mind.
That's special, yeah.
Let me tell you.
It almost feels a touch apocryphal. Did that really happen? No.
And you go, I have it in my mind. Jack Charlton, a hero for the nation, and there he is at like 11:30, 11:45, and just us going and then we're going, Jesus, Big Jack.
Yeah.
But what you mentioned about meeting your teammate at the petrol station, there's another thing. Remember when we saw Jack? Like, no one, because it's not there, people can't point to it. Yeah. It's all up there, and you share that with X, Y, and Z, you know?
Yeah, and it's like social media. If you see something, you always try and capture it through a third party.
Straight away.
And
it's nice to have the real memory as opposed to looking at it through your phone.
Well, anyone can look at it then.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that I'd love to be in a position where you're going, put down your phones. We have something special here in this moment together.
And he was such a citizen of Ballina.
Oh, he was. Yeah.
Ever present almost.
He was ever present. And like you're going, Jack Charlton nearly at times put us on the map. From a Ballina perspective, a town that has been hit hard with unemployment and everything else over the 80s and 90s. And, having Jack Charlton was like having the King or, Michael D. Higgins in situ.
If it's good enough for Jack, we're all right.
Yeah, and there's Doherty's pub that has his cheque with a signature on it, and the old story goes he paid always in cheques.
No one to cash it then.
No cashing.
Just from a journalistic point of view as well, like I love that 5-10 minutes after a game when you get that kind of rawness after a game.
Like David's interview.
Yeah, totally. Like even, I remember that interview. I remember Conor Phelan's interview after Clara won a county title in Kilkenny maybe 12 years ago. He had to stop playing, and McDarragh McDonagh interviewed him for TG Catter on the pitch. And as you do, you talk about the game, and you eventually want to get to, it's been a hard time for you. And he just clams up completely. And he just, basically what he says is, it's, for me family, me mother, my father, and that's it. And he clams up completely, and everybody can relate to it.
I remember that.
Yeah, because that is why you do it. You love it yourself, but a massive party is doing it for them and doing it for the people close to you. Like my mother followed me the length and breadth of the country, brought me the length and breadth of the country. You love what you're doing, but part of it is, I'd love to give her the day out in Croke Park, or do you know what I mean? I'd love for her to experience that for everything that she's done for me, etc. And because there are a lot of people living vicariously through you, and everyone will say that you're doing it for yourself, but really you're doing it for those closest to you, or those have helped shape you along the way.
And it's thanks.
Yeah,
it's a little bit. It's a payback.
But I know for you, and we'll go to Birr in a moment, the grandparents loom large. Tell us about that.
Sorry,
and I don't want to make you bloody cry. That's a tough thing to talk about, but I know they were big for you around this time.
It goes back to the night before the All-Ireland. And it's a lovely Thursday. And I used to have the habit, I'd always go down to the grandparents. There were 10 doors down.
You lived on the quay.
On the quay, yeah. So we're all connected. We have 51 houses on the right-hand side. If you're on the left-hand side, that's the river. But I'd always go down if it was a Saturday morning game or a Sunday morning. They'd be my last, and we'd never say anything. We'd have the cup of tea and whatnot, and I said, "Right, now see," and I'd be kind of running out the door, and it was a Thursday night. No, it was a Tuesday night. We were going to Dublin on the Wednesday, and the game was on the Thursday. So, long story short, I'll say it without thinking about it because, I give an impassioned speech I think they're in their 70s. Just when I think about it now, I nearly stood up and gave them the speech of my life.
On the Thursday.
No, Tuesday night.
Tuesday before you said bye-bye for Dublin.
Yeah.
Right. As in we're doing it from Mayo and Ballina and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I promised, I said, I won't curse. I said, by Jesus Christ, I'm coming back here with this cup and I'm walking in the road. I remember, I remember my grandfather, and I slammed the door. He goes, hey. Like I went like nearly taking the door, but it was my grandparents' house. And then I asked for something, kind of something off the boys, because we were coming through Ballina, 11:45. I said, Jesus, boys, would you bring me down the quay? And because I had this thing of, and I didn't never ask for anything special, but Jesus, we drove the bus down the quay. Self, two brothers got off the bus. I did what I promised. And next thing who goes, where's Granda? Where's Seamus? He was up in the club waiting for us. It was, that for me was.
It's so beautiful. It's amazing.
But, Jesus, I nearly took the doors off the hinges.
I'd say so.
And I'm for a game, I'm cool, I'm calm, nothing ruffles me.
Yeah.
But kind of 48 hours before, even when I was playing, I'd have, and then I'm going, right, now is the time. But Jesus Christ, it was some speech to two old ones at around 9:30, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, 2 days before Ireland. Stop, good crack.
God.
Good memories.
Amazing.
Good memories.
Amazing.
But
beautiful.
that's the whole family thing, and from a sporting context, and because they live, your family and the people live, they get more hard times as well.
Yeah.
And I remember coming out of Crow Park and going in under a little alcove. I think the lights were there where the lights they put on the pitch for the grass. I went in and it was the first call I made. 096 22125.
Is there going to be getting some calls?
This guy, the phone 21225. Yeah.
Anyway.
Jesus, call the grandparents.
Oh,
yeah.
Brilliant.
And all I could hear was shouting and roaring, and all the neighbours were in, and
It's brilliant.
Yeah. But like that's where sport with the emotion and the adrenaline and the shared experience, that's the platform for you and your grandparents to have that moment.
Yeah.
Which is fireworks.
But how lucky are you?
Oh.
You're privileged, you're honoured, and it's such a nice feeling.
Oh, and you can see, Jesus, I knew you'd get emotional, and there's nothing wrong getting emotional. I didn't want to do it to you, but you can see.
You know me long enough now.
I know. But I can see what that it still means so much. It's an amazing memory to have.
It is, and there's so many of them. Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah.
And, geez, you know me too well. But I always say, wear your heart in your sleeve. At times in life, you could try to be someone that you're not. And sometimes you get older and you say, Jesus, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how emotional you are. I think the rest of us are all buttoned up. I can't cry in front of anyone else. I go in the next room and cry.
Yeah, Jesus, my daughter says to me, Daddy, you never cry. I'm going, oh, Jesus. To talk about football. Or my grandparents. Yeah.
And just what he says about family there, it is more hardship than joy. That's what makes the joy so
without
brilliant.
a doubt.
Like, I remember coming back, after being dropped off Offaly teams or whatever, and you'd meet your mother, and I wouldn't be able to talk. Like, you just wouldn't be able to talk. And whatever you're feeling, like, she's probably not sleeping at night thinking about that. Do you know what I mean? And all the injuries, like, whatever. I felt them, obviously, but she felt them probably more. Do you know what I mean? And that's just to have those moments. And there are little moments. And fair enough, we lost the final, but we got there and we gave our. It's, a big thing about sport is a lot of it is the anticipation of it.
That's half the fun.
Yeah.
I know Mayo have had a rough ride over the last 20 years, but they've had a lot of great build-up, a lot of excitement.
Crack. The journey.
Yeah.
It's the journey. And I remember, Lord rest him, John O'Mahony was with us with Ballina Stephenites. He came in towards the prior to Christmas, and he John was a special man. Jesus, he was an absolute It was an honour. But he always said the simple things and really brought us back down to what the next stage was. But he did say to us, he says, boys, you'll only win something once, ever, ever, ever. And he says, I'm not being dismissive, but when you win it once, that's the special moment. And he could talk about 98, 2001, but 98 for him was the first. You know, that for him was, and for us, 20 years later, we didn't win a county title from 2007 until last year. 2007, I think it was 22 years. Yeah. And like we had that burn, and I remember it was so special as well, and I was ecstatic when we won it, because you're a Stephenite, that's your club. And you talked, Joe, there about the moments after the game. And I saw the chalk and cheese in it. I said, it'd be lovely now. There is moments, and I've experienced them, just to sit down. And it's not about alcohol, but just a beer. And I remember, and I was conscious of it because I didn't want to gloat in front of Brafey. I got a big jacket and I got a slab of beer. And I made sure I wasn't going to, you're not going to be seen in their face. So I wrapped the slab of beer, a few cans in my jacket, and I was walking. And I seen, and I know how he feels, but not Aidan O'Shea has lost. I saw a man that I went, oh my God. Like Aidan was outside with his young child and his wife now and family, and he was absolutely devastated because
This is last year, is it?
It's not, yeah, last year too. Yeah.
You as a fan, yeah.
And I'm going, oh my God. Because in his last county, he's lost. And I'm going, I was that soldier once. And then I took 20 steps into the Ballina Stephenites dressing room, and I just threw the slab of beer and I set up the Stephenites and I walked out. So that's and there is always, and my heart went out to him because lost another club, and it was a club final that was disaster. I think it was 5-4, and neither team wanted to win it, knew how to win it, but someone had to win it. But yeah.
Michael Verney, you do know the chalk to the cheese. So cornerback for Birr in 09, I have written here.
08.
08.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it would have been 09, but the 08 season. Or it was 08?
No, it was 08, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Birr had won All-Irelands in 95, 98, 02 and 03, and then you arrive on the scene.
Something like that, yeah. Something like that, yeah.
So Birr, it's kind of a Rolls Royce. Like Brian Whelan is Birr. So we're team of the millennium, Brian Whelan and a couple of other intercounty players. And it's against Portumna, who have a 19-year-old Joe Canning.
Yeah, it was a mad one, lads, because our grounds were being done up at the time, and Portumna didn't have lights at the time. So here's a mad one for you. Birr and Portumna were both preparing for the All-Ireland Club final in the same grounds, in a different county, in a different province. So we were both training in Ballingarry in Tip on alternative nights. So we were there 6 nights a week, basically.
Did you set up cameras?
No, nothing quite like that. But it was a mad one, yeah. So like we got to a club final without having a ground to train in, basically, which was a crazy one at the time.
Is Birr a big place?
It's a beautiful place. And it's relatively big, probably about 3,500, 4,000, something like that. Yeah. I'd be 5 minutes outside, so I'd be rural and farming kind of outside.
And is everyone just walking around with a hurl? Is it that kind of a thing, or less so?
To a point, it still has that town feel to it, right. Where there are a lot of other distractions maybe that there aren't in rural areas. Obviously, sure, we're gone massive in rugby now with, of course, yeah. Jack Regan recently retired, obviously, but Mikey Millen and Peter Dooley and all these lads as well. So, but there would be other distractions in it. But that team was the last kind of dying kick probably of the great team carrying over from 95, 98. You had the three Wheelitons, you had none of the Pilkingtons involved in 08. You still had the Hanafis, you still had a lot of the household names, Niall Claffey that people knew. But then you had Portumna, who were like really reeling from the Loughrea county final the year before, when Joe had that incident where he was
trampled on.
Yes, yeah. And they had a point to prove they'd won the All-Ireland the year before. Loughrea beat them, and then they were mad for redemption or whatever, and we were real polar opposites. We were a real hurling team. They were a brilliant hurling team too, but they were phenomenally fit. And they had it in your head as well about how fit they were and how fast they were, and everybody knew. And it was a frightening thing before the ball was even training. I remember Niall Claffey, who was one of the best players Birr ever produced. I remember we trained down in Ballina one night. It was one of the rare nights we weren't in Ballingarry, and the game just wasn't good enough. And I remember him just going wild because he knew what was coming down the line, and he'd been there. And I'd say he had a fair idea of what could happen in Croke Park that day, Patrick's Day in 08, and it did subsequently happen.
They won by 10 points. Is that a reflection of the fair?
Oh yeah, 10 is been modest, yes. I would say, and we got a brilliant start. And David will tell you this as well about games. What happens in the first, anything can happen in the first 15 minutes of a game. We got 2 goals and we looked like we were flying it, and after 25 minutes we were in big trouble. Right. They outscored us 3-18 to 1-7 for the remaining 50 minutes of the game after the first 10, shall we say, and they just ran us off the pitch. And it was that's a tough experience.
That's tough for you, yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough experience. Yeah. And I don't care what anybody says about pitch dimensions. Croke Park is by far and away the biggest pitch you will ever play in.
Well, it's not, Michael.
I can tell you 100% it is.
We can have facts or not.
I remember Niall Hayes getting a ball. Niall was Damien's brother.
Right.
Little powerhouse, about 5'8", little bull of a player. I remember shadowing him to the line, and you know your muscle memory kicks in. You're like, he's right at the sideline there. I have him like this. You know the pitch dimensions. And he did another 15 yards, and he just stayed running. And I was like, this is something that we have not experienced before. And they were a phenomenal team, in fairness, and we were obviously very close to them. We're only about 25 minutes apart, like Loch Derg basically between the two of us. But they were only coming at that stage even, and we were kind of on the slide. And Brian actually got sent off at the end of that game very, very harshly as well, and it was kind of the end of an era almost. And I remember being back in Birr that night. There was a reception for us in the square in Birr. We were up on the trailer, and even then I think it was cognizant of the fact that like this might be the only time, it's likely to be the only time that we're here. And I remember Paul Cleary was standing beside me. There's 4 days between the two of us, and he just said, Jesus, will we be back, with tears in his eyes. And you kind of know, like, you know what's coming in a club or what's not coming, and you know what's going out the door as well. And what was going out the door are some of the greatest hurlers of all time. So I would have loved to experience it, you know, my late 20s or early 30s, because you probably really, really would have appreciated it, but I still appreciate to a fair point.
Yeah. Is it better to lose by 10 than 1?
I don't buy that, to be honest with you. I'd always like, geez, if you were 1, yeah, it's a different type of heartbreak, but you know you were so close. Whereas 10, you were kind of railroaded and beaten out the gate to some point. I'd always take it to be beaten by 1. I don't buy that being beaten by 10 crack.
Yeah,
like, it's always better to have been as competitive as possible in any game, in my opinion.
You've experienced both.
Does it lessen the hurt?
Maybe so, but if you're beaten by 1, you're like, Jesus lads, how close are we? We're still right there.
Yeah, but I'd say our good friend here with us has more sleepless nights about 96 than he does about Kerry in 06. Correct or no?
1000%.
Yeah.
Are they bad sleepless nights though? Isn't it great that you were that close?
As in 1 point or 10 points?
1.
It is, but it's and I'll go back to you, and it was 98. March 98?
Yes.
We played the All-Ireland Club final that day.
I remember, yeah.
You're red and green as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the day we actually played in 2005 was red and green with James Stephens. So we were awash with red and green, and Offaly people and Mayo people sticking up for each other. But I actually know, and it's not being disrespectful to, I know of some fellas that actually haven't got over our 1 point loss in the All-Ireland Club final of 98.
Okay.
When we were 6-7 points up against Crossmaglen, and the last time and the only time they were ahead was the last kick of the game. There's so many ifs, buts, coulda, you take a personal, if I had just got that little inch, just a fingertip to that, or I had not done, it plays so many scenarios and possibilities.
Everything's magnified.
It nearly, you're saying to yourself, look at, when it's 10 to 14, I think I lost an Ireland final by 16 points at one stage.
Yeah, I mean, 10 small moments there don't make the difference.
Or 100. But you nearly go back to as you were saying there. There's something in the run up or the build up to it. Because I don't know, I think it'd be very much. I've never ever went into a football game that I have thought I would lose it.
Oh yeah, same.
Never.
Yeah,
never. So you're not. It's not a. You always deserve to be there, and you have the confidence that you're going to win it. But yeah, the one or twos, the one pointers it's the endless possibilities of what or could. And I remember like Birr, even like as a GA person, you're always looking at the Club All Irelands, and I remember and the Wheelahans, and you're like going, so them fellas actually played together, which as you say, like it was star-studded, but there were good people. Like Brian Whelan is, if you met a young fella in the street with a hurl, he wouldn't know him, but by Jesus, he was one of the greatest ever.
So you would have seen him close quarters, Brian.
Yeah.
Brian, team in the Millennium. What are we talking about here? What are the ingredients in what he was about?
Do you know what he still had, even at the latter stages? He was actually centre forward in 08.
What age would he have been then?
Oh, he was 18 in 89. So he was 37. And he was man of the match in the county final from centre forward. And he was still pulling strings. But even till the very last day he hurled, he still had that fast gene. On over 5 or 10 yards, he still had it. He mightn't have had it over 30 or 40, but he still had it. And that was obviously movement-wise, but that was in his head as well. He still had that. If he was in amongst a load of people, it might have been difficult to get away from. But like I remember the 06 county final replay, and I just remember him getting a ball under the stand in Birr, and he just soloed the length of the field in around people, put it over the bar, fist out to the crowd or whatever. I think it ended up in we won. That was a replay by a point. People often say, like, a lot of things with Brian would have been, a long clearance when he had the ball.
When I think of Brian Whelan, I see him as a halfback, a little like bedraggled, like the jersey everywhere, like just one sock up, one sock, just first minute or 70th, and a booming clearance. I don't think him as wielding in and out of play. I don't think him as fast twitch player.
Oh my God!
So that shows how
the fastest player by a mile I would have ever seen. Right. But people often say, "Oh, how would he adapt to the modern game?" Lads, come on, like a genius player. He'd be the cream of the crop now if he was around. He wouldn't be driving the ball 100 yards, but he'd be driving the 40 yards down a lad's throat or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, he had it all. So you never forget how he turned the 98 All Ireland as well, going full forward, end up at 1-6, like, and just a unbelievable player. Yeah, unbelievable. And a funny one actually, Padjo obviously was the manager, the boy's dad or whatever, but I remember being out in the pitch after losing the county final, and I remember standing in the middle of the pitch and we were looking at Portumna getting the trophy, and Liam Power, who's an absolute club legend now, he was involved, he's one of the 7 I think that has the 4 All Irelands, 95, 98, 02, 03, but this was the swan song. He wouldn't have seen any game time or anything like that. But I remember him coming out to me and he just put the arm around me, and V-Man, the boys would call me back home, he just goes, that's it for me, V-Man. That's fucking last game. And I was like, Jesus Christ, Liam. And I was welling up or whatever. And Padjo came and put his arm around me, and in typical Padjo style, he just said, put his arm around me and just said, well, passed you by, Vern. I was like, Padjo,
Jesus!
Like, there was a balloon between two of us, and you just popped it. And I was definitely not one of the worst on the field for us that day, but it's gone around the whole town now. Like, say Joe Malloy goes out for a few pints and ends up a bit mouldy on the Friday night. Passed you by, Joe.
Oh, no. I'd say you've thought about those few words in the car there a fair bit.
Yeah, I didn't take it the wrong way, to be honest.
That was the man he was.
Yeah, that was the way he was. He just, that's probably not what he was trying to say.
Yeah, that's the only way he could say it.
That's the way he'd say it. But that's gotten a plenty of airtime around the town.
Okay, so your Michael passed you by Verney.
Yeah, something like that.
Come here, he had 10 points, I know. Was a 19-year-old Joe Canning good that day? Do you
He was decent that day. Yeah, he was. What was probably the most noticeable was just how good his ball striking was. He was putting over frees from 100 yards and put over sideline from 65 or whatever. But it was more. I think Damien Hayes got 1-3, a bit of it off me that day, and Andy Smith got 2-2 the same day as well. I'll never forget, there were two instances in the game. I hit Niall Hayes a right dart now in the first half. Now a serious dart that should leave a lad broke up for about 15 minutes. And about 60 seconds there was not a bother on him. He was still going full tilt. And I remember Andy Smith got a score. It was over near the Cusick stand, and just as he struck it, my momentum followed through, and I was like, I'm going to do him here if I can at all. And I got him lovely right into the chest. Again, should have been down for a couple of minutes or whatever, pop back up out to the middle of the field, and you're just thinking...
You know what? I had a day out with Andy at the All-Ireland final, and I'd say if you hit him still...
Oh, yeah.
He's 4 foot nothing, but by jizz, he's... No, I'm only messing if you... But he's as tough.
Oh, he's all there,
He's all there.
But when you do something, and it should be like, whoa, rouse the crowd, rouse the team. It's just like, no, it's not one of them days.
And the problem is you're 30 seconds, you're running back, you're going, he should be pancake.
Yeah, totally.
And you're going... And it does dent your self-belief and going...
Yeah. You're kind of thinking it builds up. They had built it up. It was almost like a northern football team, like, these boys are just way fitter than everybody else. It had gotten into team psyche, and it was the narrative before the game was, can we deal with their speed and their power? And we couldn't. And even little things like that are kind of like, these boys are not right. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And it feeds into... Whereas if he's down for a minute, it's like, the boys are coming over, slapping you in the back, and like, you get energy from that, and everyone gets energy, but there was no real energy coming from it. And there should have been, but they were a special team too, to be fair.
And that happens in a club game in the middle of February or March. You're going, wow, there's these guys are that... guy is made different, and it does kind of go and put you on the back foot, but it is and you're looking for that big lift, or you're something to
anything.
It's like when Brady came on All-Ireland final and went straight for Donaghy and boshed him.
Oh, he was 6'7", but you it's the physicality is still there to a degree in like the amount of condition and S&C that's been done now, but there was always good tough men. You never class a man as a hard man, but good tough men that really toe to toe, and that's the beauty of it, and it's just great. It's you nearly, and whatever about the whole July thing, but I can't wait for 25th of January and Dublin Mayo, and you're back, and you're kind of reading into the weekend, and you're going games, you're trying to catch them, and I love it, and for me as being a complete outsider from hurling, like that's. I think hurling is an absolutely phenomenal game.
It's one of the great years just gone. My God. Crazy stuff. By the way, on the new rules, we'll talk about them another day, but I just saw Neil Loughran in the Irish News. Did you see this piece?
Brilliant.
No.
So they're obviously, the new football rules, they're clamping down on dissent now, and it's like a tap over free. If you say something to the referee,
yes,
it's like whistle blows, tap over free, other end of the pitch.
Yeah.
So Neil Loughran in the Irish News was talking about a recent challenge match that Antrim were playing in. And so one of the opposition, when the referee was running away, put on a Belfast accent, told the referee where he could fucking go. The referee, stop playing. Whoa!
Yeah.
Love that. I love it.
Now that's marginal gains.
Because he hears it from behind. And
He's like, who?
I must tell the Mayo boys to start practicing their Dublin accents.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Fellas, you've whet the appetite for the next couple of weeks of club actions.
Look
so much. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
There are lads going to have a bad couple of days after, and there's certain other lads are going to have
a David Brady
the days he had.
But we'll never forget it. Whether we're whatever side of the table we're at, and they're club All Ireland finals. Hurling, football, ladies, men's is just a beautiful time and a beautiful moment to be there for.
Yeah. They'll be seeing each other at a petrol station now in 20 years.
We do a Rose's Head or something.
Michael Verney of the Irish Independent, thank you.
Cheers, Joe.
And David Brady, All-Ireland winner 2005. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.